Everybody, and welcome to today's SME session. Delighted to be joined, myself and Jaime are delighted to be joined by Joanne O'Grady, who is the founder of Clogs. I'm really intrigued about this story. Actually, Jaime has been filling me in on Joanne's business story since probably the beginning of COVID-19, and he's been watching this story, I suppose, and being intrigued by it too. So, Joanne, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Jaime.
How you doing, Joanne? It's great to see you.
Yeah.
Joanne, we might just start, I suppose, for the whole idea of these SME sessions is to try and give other entrepreneurs or upcoming entrepreneurs a sense of what business feels like, what it looks like. So you might just introduce your business and what you've done prior to COVID-19. Let's start with the good stuff and how you got to that position before maybe February this year. And then we can go through the events since then, if you don't mind.
So it could be a very long story. Probably started the business before you were born. But anyway, so we started off in 2005. So I had lived overseas for many years. And then when I moved back here, and there was loads of stuff, I actually became pregnant with my fourth child, which was a bit of a surprise. So anyway, I was looking for stuff here, couldn't find it, and thought, okay, well, why don't I start a business importing those brands into Ireland? So my family were always kind of in the entrepreneurial trade, and they had a wholesale distribution business. So they kind of gave me a leg up into the operation side of it, really. So that was great.
Excellent, excellent. So what did you start off? So you started importing in the brands. What type of brands are we talking about, or what's the area of kind of the business, and what are we selling and where are we distributing to? Bring us through those channels if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we have always specialized in kind of premium nursery goods, so for babies and kids. And yeah, so at the very first brand that we started off with, it's kind of one of those Del Boy type stories. So I basically bought 12 buggies, which were a New Zealand brand, and I put them in the back of the car. I'd never ever done any sales before in my life. And so I put them in the back of the car, and with a little sheet of paper from my dad saying, here's how you do sales, off I went. And I still remember who my first customer was. So that was a guy based in Navan in County Meath. And when he said yes, I kind of went, Jesus, really? So very gauche, very gauche. But yeah, no, I discovered I loved it. So it's been great. Yeah, it's a really good journey.
And where are you distributing, again, prior to COVID-19, where were you distributing to, and who were your, I'm not saying give us all your client details, but obviously your distribution through B2B, so you're obviously selling into businesses. So talk me through that, or how did that get so big from selling buggies out the back of the car, which is a great Irish, it's so entrepreneurial, it's brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's still a very small business. So there's 8 of us here in Ireland and 2 in the UK. So, you know, very much the largest part of our business is in Ireland. And in 2012, we opened Clogs UK. So that is now run by my business partner in the UK, and he has another employee there. And then head office, global headquarters, I call it, is based here in Dublin.
Excellent. So if we go into stores, what brands are we looking for that are associated with Clogs, or what can we buy that will be supplied by Clogs to the Irish market?
Well, I suppose our lead brand in the Irish market is Up a Baby, which is where I met Jaime. And anyway, so it is an American brand, a travel brand. So they do strollers. They're really good strollers, of course.
Yes.
But anyway, so over the years, we kind of started with, we were one of their first distributors in 2010, and it's a family-based company in Massachusetts. And when we started with them, they were very small, but we started getting involved. My background is kind of in PR, and so we got involved with what we call brand ambassadors, which was a very new idea at the time. And so actually one of our very first brand ambassadors was Isa Nasewa. Yeah, we developed then a link, shall we say, with part of the rugby fraternity, and we've recently kind of expanded into GAA. And yeah, so we've kind of worked with a lot of brand ambassadors over the years, and it's really done, you know, a really good job for the brand, because obviously high profile people out with their buggies the whole time. It's a good story.
Very
Joanne,
good.
just a question actually from my side, two questions really, because a lot of people now are, and throughout COVID have been like, trying to pivot. That we probably beaten to death the phrase pivot, myself and Paul, but have been trying to look for the opportunity for their business, right? So before we get into how COVID affected your business, taking a step back, where did you see it, or how did you see the opportunity for the business? And then the second question I would have for you is around the brand ambassador stuff, because you were one of the first kind of lean into it, like you said, with Issa's, Issa being a brand ambassador as such. And myself and Paul have talked a lot about kind of collaborations and content and branding right now and how to stay relevant. But again, taking it back before COVID, how and why did you lean into the two of them heavily, I suppose, or kind of one of the first to really go through that door?
Yeah, well, I suppose most wholesale distributors kind of focus on the B2B side of the business. And I suppose we are slightly different in the sense that we've always invested quite a lot in the marketing of the brands we have in our portfolio. And most of that is actually B2C marketing. So, obviously we have a retail sales operation, and their job is to nurture the B2B relationships. And so what we've always focused on is actually equipping our retailers with the tools they need to be able to sell our brands. So making sure they're really confident, making sure that they're totally comfortable with the products, and then actually giving them kind of selling tools rather than just product knowledge, I suppose. And then the other side of it was really investing in the B2C side, which, that was my background anyway. So I knew how important it was for parents, particularly. Increasingly I think 90% of the source of information for parents is referrals or recommendations from friends. So it's always been really, really important. So if you know somebody who's used a product and they love it, you're going to feel much more comfortable about buying it. So that's really where our kind of focus has always been.
I presume then from the point of view of having a brand ambassador, when you're in store, you're talking to the retailers and they see whoever it is pushing the stroller, and they're going to want that in their store because they know their customers are going to see the same. So it's kind of building your own brand up before you even hit the stores, isn't it really? So it's a great idea.
I'd never heard of Jaime Heslip,
Why am I always on the receiving end of abuse on this show?
Joe, actually, I have a note here on I actually have on my sticky pad, don't slag Jamie too much, and you actually just did it for me, Joanne.
Tell me that note before we started.
So it's always great when you have a famous rugby player to push her shoulders, but Jamie's going to actually just go back to his missus and convince her to have more children so he can get a buggy to be the brand ambassador. Okay, very good. So
it works really well, but I suppose it's just completely heightened during the COVID thing, which is to a certain extent, the whole kind of advocacy and emergence of influencers, as they're now called, has just taken a leap forward. And in Ireland in particular, I think one of the major impacts, everybody's talking about it anyway, about COVID, is the move to digital communications. Yeah. And for us, yes, certainly influencers are a really important part of that. But then the other aspect of it was we realized at the start of the lockdown that all of a sudden, all of our B2B communications would have been based on personal contact. So like still that old fashioned thing of calling into a store, seeing the staff, training them face to face and everything else. So when you talk about pivots, that's what we've been like spinning around for the past couple of months, but like moving all of that resource into digital. So we've been recording Zoom sessions. Like my retail sales manager is based in Galway, and we've been doing these Zoom sessions for our business customers, so they can log into Zoom sessions and actually see us demonstrating the products and going through the different products so that they're able to replicate that in the stores when people are coming in.
Okay, brilliant. Can you just take me through, sorry Jamie, Joanne, do you mind take me through, I've always been intrigued by how a business owner starts up a distribution and they import in, okay? So I know we haven't got enough time in this session to actually give everybody nuts and bolts of how you do that. But what's the stress points? What have you learned from bringing goods into Ireland, trying to package them, create the brand, sell them into retailers, and hope the retailers can sell them to the customer, because it's a massive chain and it needs to be extremely well managed. So how did you put it off? I suppose, just being blunt, because it's just, I would absolutely be terrified of that process.
I suppose in many ways it kind of evolves, but I remember actually one time having a business mentor who actually said to me, like, you know, there's no rocket science in your business. You're basically a cash flow management business. And so we move boxes, but we actually fund the moving of the boxes. So the big stress points are in terms of cash flow management. There's absolutely no way around that. It's very unsexy, but basically you're buying goods primarily in China. And so you pay for those goods the day they leave China. And it could be, on average, we've worked out like maybe 90 to 120 days before you get paid for them. And that's if you've got a really rapid stock turn. So it takes about minimum of 45 days for the goods to actually land here. You pay VAT and duty at point of entry, then you bring them into your warehouse and then you sell them. So the faster you can sell them, the better. So I do remember in 2008 when the bottom fell out of the world, that I had over €1 million worth of stock sitting in my warehouse, and I was going, ah.
Wow. You know what, that's so simple the way you put that. I know you said a businessman gave you that one, but that's actually the simplest explanation I've ever been given. And I hope that helps somebody that's thinking of doing this or trying to set a business or distribution, that it is just cash flow management, which is superb.
And Joanne, I'm curious if technology or anything over the last kind of 3-4 months in that channel, in terms of mitigating your risk or cutting your costs down in that supply chain, even basically not having to fly to suppliers as much as you might have previously had to do, has anything come into effect that has helped you relieve some of those stress points, or has become even more stressful with potential delays and seeing the length of that supply chain?
You mean technology wise?
Yeah.
No.
Or any sort of innovation that you've seen, because I'm guessing that a lot of people were in a similar sort of position. I don't know, innovative ways of trying to tweak the business model or looking at alternatives.
Well, definitely. I mean, I suppose the major thing has been in terms of the communication. So how do we keep that supply chain moving to our retail customers? And I suppose more of the challenges really have come from their end, where logistically they don't have a shop face anymore unless they're online. So we've been trying to provide them with really accessible digital assets. So like, for example, we've activated a live stock feed, so they can actually look and see what do we have in stock. So they don't have to ring us up and say, do you have this color in stock? Do you have that color in stock? So that's live. That's really simple. We should have done it years ago. We've also like tried to implement as I was saying, to the situation where they can actually access the resources, training resources for the products, but also provide them with digital assets. So like imagery, you know, product descriptions, all that kind of stuff. It was there before, but we're now really, really pushing it out, as in ringing them saying, I don't see that brand up online, you know, can you get it up there? And also talking to them about having their own shopping platforms. So we kind of accelerated our program. We were going to relaunch our B2C website, and we accelerated that the minute the shutdown happened. The next week we started on it. So so that's gone live now, and that's like a showcase. So it's kind of like how we would like our brands to look on our retailer platforms, so they can look at that as a reference. So
you're almost spoon feeding them, really, which you have to do to kind of push to make sure you get the stock on the website, or to make sure that they put the descriptions up. So you're checking the content obviously regularly, and making sure it fits what you want, which is very proactive, because I find a lot of people in the past, even maybe before COVID-19, will just, as you said, probably they had it, didn't really matter if it went up or not. You know, you'd hope you might mention it in passing the meeting, but now it's literally get it up, get it done. I
suppose the stress points in their business are so different. So like, if you look, we were referencing there the pressures that retailers are under with you know, rents, rates, all those kind of things. a lot of them weren't able to defer them during the lockdown. And that affected people like Mothercare Ireland, who, as we know, unfortunately closed last Friday. So, you know, I suppose from a retailer's point of view, a lot of our customers would be owner managed outlets, are very small operations, and their day-to-day life is in the shop and managing the shop and everything else. And for them to switch their focus then into digital is really hard. But we've had a couple of new customers who've actually opened, one called Baby Moon Shop that actually opened during the lockdown. Very brave, but they're very digital savvy. And
what are they called? What's the name of those?
It's called Baby Moon Shop.
Baby Moon Shop, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. So them, and then there's another kind of core, there's kind of a core of retailers, independent retailers in Ireland who are really, really pushing their own digital agenda, doing it really well. And they're the ones that are winning out, like you can really see it.
Okay, very good. Just on the Mothercare thing, I suppose, Mothercare to me going, I was actually a bit gutted when I read it because I remember my nephew Daniel, I think he's 23 or 24 now. I remember my sister Karen was expecting Daniel. I was in Mothercare nearly every week with her, picking out various different items for the whole pregnancy. I was only a kid at the time, but it's such a shame to see such a really big Irish company, and it's something that's kind of, I think everybody bought something from Mothercare. Everyone has been in a Mothercare store, so it was good. But I did see that Johnny, the CEO, notified all the staff and rang them all. It just gives us a touch of class even when things are going wrong. I think that's such a great thing to do. It's a terrible, sad story, but you know, being able to hold that kind of level of professionalism is just amazing.
Yeah, no, they were great. They were one of our very first customers, certainly our first like kind of big account. So they were unusual in the sense that they were kind of risk takers as well as being a big national retailer. But they were very good to their suppliers as well. All of their Irish suppliers were really kept informed the whole way along as to what was happening. And, you know, they made sure that everything was done in the most kind of honorable way.
I mean, that's amazing. I love hearing, horrible story, but I love hearing people being able to do that, because you're so used to hearing the liquidations of people going out and just taking as much money out of business as they can. And, you know,
believe me, we've
staff and
been
do
there.
the same with you being there probably. Yeah. So it's horrendous. It's just horrendous.
For me, it speaks to like the quality and values of a brand like Mothercare, and that's why it's such a shame. You know, even as things are going south, the way they act and behave kind of speaks volumes for that whole team and how they want to deal with people. And for me, it highlights the importance of, and this is what I'm kind of curious, Joanne, from your side, the importance of your brand and your brand values, and keeping it, speaking to those values even through this kind of stressful time. How, while you hand over a lot of content and we talk about you kind of give them a bit of a guideline to the different retailers that are using your products and are trying to go online, how important or what kind of autonomy do you give them around, you know, giving them a bit of free reign around either your products or just in general, or do you keep it pretty strict? And exactly what are your kind of your thoughts on importance of keeping your brand, you know, present and top of mind for people throughout this whole period, even if it is online?
Yeah, well, I think the criteria that we would have, like we do kind of issue brand guidelines as well. So they're not like kind of rigid as such, but I think people do like a reference point. So for example, when we're working with influencers now, you know, the more clarity you can have about your expectations on both sides, I think the better the collaboration can be. So we kind of, for this brand Gaia Baby, we work with influencers a lot, and this is an own designed and developed brand, so it's like our own label. And we're doing some work with influencers now, but we actually literally have a roadmap. So we kind of go through that with them beforehand, and it's not, as I said, it's not rigid, because from an influencer's point of view, they all have their own style and so on. So it's just important, I think, that there is a framework, and yeah, everybody has sets out their expectations beforehand.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on that space? Because you know, different people have very different points of views on brand ambassadors or influencers or you know, what partnerships, whatever kind of way you want to phrase it. It sounds like you have found it pretty successful since, you know, using it all those years back with Isa and bringing it through now. I've seen like people like Bernard Brogan and that in the GA world. I've seen a lot of dads actually, which is great to see. And it's great to see more and more dads getting involved in terms of parenting. It's funny talking to my own parents about it, how much has changed for them. But have you found it really beneficial to your business and to your brands?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, as we were just discussing earlier, which is like the personal referrals. So at the moment, and during the COVID lockdown, it was really interesting the type of customer queries that we were getting through our web pages. Like people they didn't know where to turn for information. So like you can imagine the reliance on people they trust or people that they admire or people that they find interesting is so much more important. So if somebody goes out and says, you know, actually, I got this buggy, it was gifted to me. People are upfront about that now. But what I love about it is, and that's really, really important. So, you know, people then can make their own minds up.
The power of social media, if you give an influencer a buggy for argument's sake and they're using it, they're actually showing the video now as well. So they're like a live demonstration of what happens. So it's priceless in my opinion, I presume, for your business to be able to have somebody with that power showing your product with their child and endorsing it, especially with their child. And I think that's probably the biggest endorsement you can give to any product. Whatever about saying you think this is good or that fits well or whatever, when you're putting your kids in it, is obviously great.
Yeah, no, it is great. And it's great to have the relationships with those people as well. So, so no, it works very well, but there are, I suppose there are limitations as well, because sometimes it can go horribly wrong. And to be honest with you, you know, I think if your job is as an influencer, the personal, you know, kind of slander and hate and everything else that gets thrown at these people is just awful. Really, really awful.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. It looks pretty on Instagram, but it's not an easy job as opposed to an easy task. The other thing to say that is, in fairness, for people that are watching, have seen this going right and wrong, is that your product has to be good. You can't just send out any old crap to an influencer and think that's going to be the solution. And I have come across people that have tried that method and has failed. Because in fairness to influencers, I do think there's a lot of integrity out there as well. They genuinely won't push something or talk about something if it's not what it says in the thing, is they don't want to be labeled by somebody buying a crap product and not working and being associated with just pushing any old thing out. We had a good chat with Tommy Bowe actually last week, and he was on the show. And obviously Tommy has a clothes line that distributes to retail as well. And we were chatting to him about the balance between direct B2C and then trying to keep your retailers happy. So obviously with COVID-19 and retailers being closed down, slightly more towards B2C, which is obvious, which is obviously good for them as well in the long run. How do you balance that relationship, and how difficult is it? You know, if a retailer says something about somebody bought it online, or that must be difficult.
I don't think any retailer would say they love Clever Clogs for having a B2C platform. But like we see it as very important. So it's two-sided for us. So we have suppliers and we have to keep our suppliers happy. So say the brand owners of Up a Baby and our smaller brands like Zazu and Snuggle Me and Gaia Baby. So we have to keep our principals, I call them, happy. So they want to see their brands showcased in a nice way. And so, you know, that's why I say our platform I have to be proud of how our brands look online. So so that's really important, but it's also a way that end consumers can actually see products that maybe they don't see in the retailers on a day-to-day basis. So we obviously have a wider range. We have, you know, all the different colors, all the different sizes and all of that. So that's important. So on the B2B side, how do the retailers feel about it? Probably not delighted, but on the other hand, they then know that they can actually access that product and they can have it in their shop. So it's, I think you know, pretty much every B2B business, I think in Ireland should have their own retail platform. it works on many different levels for us. But we also use it as an after sales and service facility. So we do repairs and servicing for most of the products. Most of them come with warranty. So we're under obligation to our suppliers to actually supply replacement parts and spare parts and stuff like that. So that has to be online as well. So.
Joanne, I'm kind of curious, like other kind of themes that have come from different conversations with people we've had on the show has been collaborations
Mm-hmm.
in terms of their own brand or other brands, and these kind of cross collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
Paul mentioned with Tom Gannon earlier, and Callie did one with Gym Plus Coffee. With your, I kind of two questions here regarding your own brand, Gaia.
Yeah.
Is it important to have your own brand as well as all these other brands that you're importing? Because I'm seeing something similar in the pub trade where people are kind of starting to do their own beers a little bit more. They're trying to do their own kind of cocktail blends as such and sell that. And also with your own brand, are you looking at possible collaborations as a way of growing the brand and leveraging the brand equity with someone else?
Yeah, I mean, we would certainly be open to collaborations, but I think the opportunity of actually bringing our own brand to market was a way to kind of, I suppose, epitomize the brand values that we have as a company. So we went through this interesting process last year. It was really good, actually, where we brought the team together and we had a coach, professional coach, who came in and basically facilitated a discussion about, as a team, what did we all want our brand to be. And one of the things that came out really strongly from it was sustainability. So I've kind of always been interested in that, but you know, sometimes you don't really want to push the whole kind of eco-warrior side. And I wouldn't call myself an eco-warrior, but it was sustainability in parenting products. So a lot of the products that you buy as a parent, you'll know, Jaime, of recent experience, just have built-in obsolescence. So it's something that you can't live without for 4 or 5 months, but then it's just completely thrown to one side. So we wanted to only represent brands that have multifunctional product, and in terms of our design and development, develop a brand that will be sustainable in terms of its longevity and its functionality. So that was a really interesting journey, I think, for all of us in the business, because it meant that everybody is on board with that, you know, that aspiration. And so all of the brands we now have in our portfolio, we did a big divestment last year, and everything that stayed in our portfolio or come into our portfolio is something that we're very proud to represent, because they're brands that value sustainability or ethical manufacturing processes or something like that. So everybody in the team is kind of invested in that and has a part to play in it, which was really good.
And are you getting good reaction from your customers off the back of this very clear value system and application to your brand and other brands?
Yeah, I suppose from a retailer point of view, they're probably just interested in the brands that consumers want. So, you know, but I suppose they would have clarity in their own minds as to what Clever Clogs is doing and what we represent. So, or I hope they do anyway. But yeah, I think to a certain extent, you know, we talked about earlier is, you know, helping retailers, you know, to go in the direction you want them to go to. But I think every retailer and every business has to have some kind of point of difference. So for us being a distributor, it's not a very sexy business. You know, you're kind of, as that mentor said to me, moving boxes and being a bank. So, you know, to actually have a vision as to what you're trying to do in that context, I think is really important, and gives everybody, I think, in the business a bit of pride in what they're doing.
You mentioned that you sped up the process of your digitalization. Got there eventually. And we noticed this, speaking to various different entrepreneurs, that they had something in the pipeline and a business plan, and that the way they reacted to COVID-19 was, okay, we're going to do that in 8 months' time, 10 months' time, next year. Let's bring it now. And I think having a strong business plan sounds exactly what you had, a really strong vision of where you were going to go in certain amounts of time, but you just have to ramp it up with COVID-19. So it's interesting to see, and Jaime, we keep saying this every week, don't we? You're seeing the same trends with successful companies and successful people. the exact same processes, and whether it's using the likes of the brand ambassadors, or whether it's having a really robust business plan and being able to bring it forward, or leadership with your team. You mentioned bringing your team together last year. The people are speaking. There's a blueprint there that everybody kind of roughly follows, and the key people that follow it. So fair play. I think it's
like, it's very like, Paul, like you have a very clear vision, Joanne, of and even more so now in terms of what your brand Clever Clogs is about, and where you want it to go, and the values around that, and then you've distilled that down into the various different actions that you're taking in terms of selection and type of brands, and your follow-up, and how you're dealing with retailers and all that, and it's the same thing. It's the same themes that we're seeing again and again and again. Is there anything else that was pressed? You talked about your online kind of side of the business. Is there anything else that COVID accelerated for you?
Yeah, well, I suppose one of the things that I found personally really difficult about the lockdown is the lack of collaboration. So it's really interesting, just through conversations that you might have like this, or, you know, chatting as we were, Jaime, you just get ideas from people and you feed off people. And I found myself that I didn't realize it, but like I actually really miss having people in the office to chat to. And it's just that like kind of day to day, you know, passing people on the way to get a cup of coffee, or what you do at the weekend. And like, I'm starved of that now. Like I'd say, you know, people in my house absolutely hate me because I come home and I'm like, I'm just wanting to chat, you know. So, but really that collaborative thing, I think, is something we all miss. And one of the most important tools, obviously, that we've had is these kind of video conferencing calls. But actually getting used to that, I think, is so important for people. Like, there's a lot of people out there now saying, oh, don't like it. And, you know, you don't get to see body language and so on. But you do. You just have to, I think, relax into it and just say, this is how it's going to be. So, yeah, so that's, I suppose, that's been the worst thing for me. But, yeah, I'm kind of really looking forward to people coming back to the office now.
And what are the well, as well as having people back in the office to some shape or fashion, what are the kind of the strengths you kind of, you know, you that really came through for you over the last 3-4 months, and the positives that you'll take away from this going forward, as a business yourself, in terms of how you run your business and how you work with your employees, but just, you know, as well as in the overall retail baby market?
But I think has it been 3 months that we've been locked down? I can't remember.
Oh, it's probably been longer. Myself and Paul, like, have actually lost count of the days. I think it's Christmas time already, to be honest. Like,
now definitely what we will come out of this as a business is we have so much more in terms of digital assets. We've got everything. We've recorded everything, so we've got all our training online. We've got instructional videos. We've got everything is digital, and we really weren't investing in that beforehand. And it's kind of one of those things where you say, yeah, we must do that. We must do that. So like stupid things, like last week I had my son and a friend's daughter in here, and they made a video of how to convert your co-sleeper to a cot, which has been on the agenda and the list to do, but it's just, you know, when do you get the time to do it? So we have a huge resource now that we didn't have before. And that's going to be invaluable. And that really is something that we never would have had. It's taken a pandemic, but we never would have had it. So I think when we come out of that, it's also made us start reevaluating how we were running the business. So that idea of having to go into a shop to do the training. Actually, if you have people on the other end of a video call, one of the things is that you've got their undivided attention, even if it's only for 20 minutes. They've made an appointment with you to actually have a training session on.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So we wouldn't get that if we were in the store. They'd be, you know, running over to the till, or, you know, kind of answering the phone or whatever it is. So that's kind of, we've certainly reevaluated that whole process and that whole part of the business. So yeah, I think we'll come out of it with that. We also have a shiny new website, which is kind of nice as well. And we've had...
What's the website? just to give it.
Oh yeah, cleverclogs.ie.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
There we go.
And yeah, maybe a slightly more structured framework for how we're working with influencers and collaborators and so on. So yeah, I kind of feel very positive about the outcomes of a lot of the things that have happened.
Phenomenal. Look, it's amazing. I know COVID-19 has been a struggle for so many businesses. What we're trying to do, myself and Jaime, with these SME sessions, is show people the good stories and the success stories, and hopefully it will motivate somebody. I've been working in the financial planning sector for nearly 20 years now, and most of my business has been built around SME business owners, so helping them with their business from a finance point of view. But I would hate for people to be sitting at home and thinking COVID-19 was going to put them off because of all the horror stories they're hearing. So hopefully, listen to you, we'll find young entrepreneurs that are thinking of doing something similar, whether it's in the same area as you or a completely different sector, that will give them the encouragement to know that once you set it up properly, you can really weather a storm in business, once you set it up correctly. Joanne, just to wrap up, do you mind me asking what your, maybe not COVID related, but since you started in business, because we're hoping this will help people start more business ultimately, what's been your biggest mistake and what's been your biggest, I suppose, success or learning curve, I suppose, that you probably would like to pass down to an up-and-coming entrepreneur?
Well, if somebody's mistake and success, I don't know, because my glass is always half full, so I'm not going to dwell on the mistakes.
Brilliant answer. That's it. Don't say anything more. That's your attitude.
But I think one of the most important things we did, and anybody, it would be interesting to ask Tommy Bowe about this as well, but Irish retailers have a tendency not to pay on time. So at some stage, I'm going to say it might have been around 2006 or 2007, we offered an incentive for our retailers to move on to a direct debit payment scheme. Now, it's very unsexy part of the business, but Jesus, it's just been the bread and butter of our business, because it means everybody pays on time. They get a good incentive to come onto the direct debit system, and then their 30 days due invoices are all paid on a certain date.
I can see Paul.
That's a mic drop right there. That's a mic drop of a strategy. That's amazing. That's just
I can see you with your finance hat, Paul, just lighting up with that.
No, but you know what? That's brilliant, because so many people overcomplicate the collection of their money, and they think it needs to be complicated. I think they need to allow that 60 days or 90 days or whatever your terms are with different supply chains. But that's just genius. It's just so simple, and hopefully that will be taken up by people.
Did you get pushback off that initially, and then people were like, "Oh, actually, this is really beneficial to us in the long term"? Or how did that
we
go down
always
initially?
found we would be a small supplier, so like, say at the time in particular, we might have been, in their top 10 suppliers or something like that. And the tendency is, and you'll know this from the brewing industry, microbreweries, is that your smaller suppliers get paid last. So the tendency is to only pay you when they need to buy something else. So we just weren't prioritized as a supplier. So we did get pushback from it initially. It didn't cause anybody to close their account, but some of them would moan about it and all that kind of thing, which was fine. But we just did it like that, and we just drew a line in the sand and said, okay, we're going to do it like this. So they do get an incentive in terms of, it's substantial. Well, I think it's a good discount, and maybe it doesn't have to be that much, but they do get an incentive to go on to the scheme. And then the second thing that we did, which again is very kind of, a lot of people will be very nervous about it, but we went on to invoice discounting. So we've operated, and do you call it invoice discounting? Yes, you do.
Yep.
So commercial financing. So basically, once we don't do it on all our business, but pretty much I'd say about 70% of our business is under invoice discounting. And for a cash flow business, it's fantastic because it's a flexible lending system. So as your demand goes up, your facility goes up as well. So it matches it. And that's really been so flexible for us. It's quite expensive. But it really maps, shall we say, the stress points in the supply chain that we were talking about earlier.
Excellent. That's an amazing blueprint for somebody to do. You know, those two key things. And like I said, I never thought of your business or anyone in that game of distribution and importing, etc., that it is literally what your mentor said. It's literally just a cash flow management system. You're just moving boxes and you have to pay for them. And sometimes I think people do overcomplicate business and finance, and that's a really clever way of looking at it. You can get your head around that by using invoice discount or putting people on direct debit. It must definitely manage the stress levels and manage now you said it's expensive, but the amount of time that people waste trying to collect invoicing, I don't think is ever properly calculated by a business. So I'm sure it is expensive, but I'm sure the rewards you're getting, energizing, putting your energy towards, whether it's collaborations or whether it's doing more videos or making sure things are done on time, it probably balances out to be a cost saving, if anything. Joanne, look, that was fantastic. I must say, you're a breath of fresh air, and I love the attitude of the glass is half full when I asked to kind of look for the negative stuff, because obviously you don't have any, and everything's a learning curve in business.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I would reiterate there has been so many mistakes.
We know that. We're all in business, and we can all say that. But having the attitude of trying to concentrate on the positivity, even when there's a negative situation in business, is so important. It's something that we all know we should do. It's hard to do, but you know.
Well, we've talked about it, Paul, haven't we? We said, like, you know, in terms of mindset, it's that growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Yeah. And you know, when mistakes happen, you know, if you kind of have that flexible mindset of terms of learning from it, what went wrong, you know, look at it in a very non-emotional way, take your learnings and apply it going forward. Then, you know, when you look back, you'll be like, yeah, that was shit, but you know, we actually learned X, Y, and Z from it, and we've applied it to the business. You know, we've done, you know, direct debit, you know, as opposed to waiting for 60 or 90 days worth of credit. These kind of things, you know, and they will relieve stress. And I always say to people, you know, I can live with people making mistakes, but it's like when they repeatedly make the same mistake over and over and over, that's where it starts getting a little bit frustrating.
Joanne, just to wrap this up, I hope you don't mind me asking this question. I hope from a retailer point of view, but if there's people, this is for people like entrepreneurs or small business, but if there's people watching this morning and they are parents and they're in and I mean this wholeheartedly, where can they go? So CleverClogs.ie, you have all the videos there in relation to how different strollers work and how things work, or where can they go to educate themselves? And now we've 3 kids and the most stressful things the world is going to the store to pick something to buy. You're looking for the simplest in the world. So I'm guessing that most people that are watching this either have children or going to have kids. So what would you recommend to do? So if you're in the market for something in relation to a product, head to CleverClogs.ie, watch tutorials, or where are those type of videos?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously loads of resources online. So like as ourselves, we would have an IGTV channel. A lot of the product reviews and product demonstrations and so on are actually available on that.
Excellent.
And, yeah, so we operate under the CleverClogs brand, and then we also have Gaia Baby, which is the furniture brand, both .ie websites, I think. No, one is .eu, I think. But
we'll put them up. We'll find them out of, from a marketing point of view, we'll put them in the video anyway. We'll try to encourage, and if you are watching this back or you're listening to it on the podcast, head over to the CleverClogs Instagram page and familiar yourself how to use a stroller, because I don't know how many times I felt like breaking our stroller trying to get it because we couldn't operate it correctly. And actually many times I actually said to Sarah, I'm just leaving it here. I don't care, I'll just buy a new one because I can't close it. I'm one of those, I'm not the most technical mind or mechanical mind when it comes to those things. Joanne, listen, that was really amazing. I'm so happy with the interview and how that went, and I know it's just going to give buckets of value to other people and upcoming entrepreneurs. So thanks a million for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for talking to me. So it's
great.
Joanne,
thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.